Welcome back to the Prison Professors program. I am Michael Santos, and today I'm going to continue reading from this book, Prison, My 8,344th Day, a typical day in an ongoing journey. If you didn't watch the earlier presentation, I would encourage you to start from lesson 1. In that lesson, I told you that I was working to help people in jail and prison understand how to maintain a level of discipline and energy and motivation while they're going through the challenging times of being separated from the people they love and the people who love them. This book I began writing during my 23rd year. It is a companion book to the longer project, which is called Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Term. If you haven't read that book or listened to that book, I encourage you to visit us at prisonprofessors.com, where you can download a digital copy for free, because this is one of the ways that I strive to be the change that I want to see in the world. If a person is going into the criminal justice system, if a person has been justice impacted, I want those individuals to learn how they can use their time today to begin sowing seeds for a better life. I was in prison for 26 years. Every single day, I felt really motivated to prepare for the success I wanted to build when I came home. I've been home for 9 years now. I'm filming this in the spring of 2022. But I'm using this to really to distribute to people inside of jails and prisons across the United States, because I really believe that the time they spend inside is going to have a direct relationship to their prospects for success when they come home. So if you've got an opportunity to watch this in the jail where you are, or the prison where you are confined, you can read along. There are always going to be 3 questions at the end. I will encourage you to use those questions in a manner to, just prompt you to be thinking about in what ways are you spending time today to prepare for the success you want to build in the days, weeks, months, years, and decades ahead. That's a strategy that leaders taught me. It's a strategy that I want to pass along to other people who are serving time in America's jails and prisons. I am Michael Santos, and on behalf of our entire team at Prison Professors, I want to thank you for being a member of our community. Now I'm going to turn to the manuscript. So I just look at my little computer here. I switched to this section right here, and today we are going to be talking about section 2. Incidentally, if people want to write a response, they can just send a letter to Prison Professors at 32565 Golden Lantern, Box B1026 in Dana Point, California, 92629. They can email impact@prisonprofessors.com with the subject line reader response if they want to include their responses to the questions. People who want to connect with me directly can write to michael@prisonprofessors.com, but I want you to know I receive tens of thousands of these emails from people in jail and prison, and I wish that I could respond to everybody. I can't, but I am grateful to have a connection, and hope that I can continue to contribute by sharing projects like these. So let me start by reading. So I'm back in the quiet room. I'll have to return to my cubicle for the 3 a.m. census count in just over an hour. I address an envelope for Carol, then begin writing her a love letter. Nothing brings more pride, meaning, or gratification to my life than the marriage Carol and I share. We married in a prison visiting room nearly 7 years ago, and she has been the reason for every decision I have made since she came into my life. In many ways, I feel as if the decisions I made during the first years of my prison journey put me on a pathway to starting a relationship with her. Few men serving lengthy prison terms enjoy the luxury of a good family. I have great memories of how it all started. During the first few years of my prison term, I remember listening to Gene when I was still locked in a high-security prison. He was serving a life sentence. Gene told me the story about another person who built a relationship with a woman while serving a lengthy sentence. They married while he served his term. That story inspired me. Several years later, Carol and I began our relationship. First through correspondence, then through visits. She brought a level of liberty to my life. Before I concluded my day, I sent Carol an envelope that included my daily writing. She helps by typing my work. Anytime guards carry mail out of the housing unit, I ensure that the mail sack includes at least 1 envelope. I'm sending 2 letters to Carol today. Keeping our marriage alive through these years in prison requires a daily commitment. I do everything to show Carol how I live inside these boundaries. The letters show her how I plan for our life together after my release. I anticipate many challenges and obstacles ahead. By preparing to triumph over those challenges, I show my appreciation. Sending her my work makes me feel as if I am contributing, working to build something that will sustain us in the future. Typically, those letters reveal my feelings, then detail the progress I am making on a manuscript I am writing. I describe my optimism that this prison may soon offer access to email. Although I have never sent an email in my life, I anticipate that it will allow us to communicate more regularly. I give her a description of the work I expect to complete before our visit on Friday, only 4 more wake-up days from now, in about 100 hours. I'm always counting. It's 2:23 in the morning when I finish writing the second page of my letter to Carol. I fold the letter and stuff it in the envelope. Now that I am moving through the final 10% of my time in prison, I frequently drift into thoughts of what it will be like when I am home with her. Since our relationship began, we've never been together outside of a visiting room. After several minutes of daydreaming and solitude, I realize that I am losing valuable work time. Thoughts of what it will feel like to be free, to live with my wife, and to work without the complications of prison are like a fantasy. I force my thoughts to the job at hand and try to snap out of it. I rarely thought about going home in years past, a concept that just didn't register. Now, as I approach the end of my confinement, I think about the time when finding privacy won't require that I wake before 2 o'clock every morning. I think about what it will be like to sleep in a real bed with the woman I love. What challenges will we face? At 2:29, I stop daydreaming and walk out of the room to drop Carol's envelope in the outgoing mail slot. Back at the table, I resume my work on White Collar, a manuscript that I will use to educate business professionals on how inattention to ethics can lead to struggles with the criminal justice system. The more I read about corporate scandals or people who make unethical decisions to enrich themselves or cut corners to advance their careers, the more confident I become that I'll be able to earn a living from the intellectual property I create. I'll use it to teach about the consequences of bad choices. I am writing about Walter, a former senior officer for a global corporation. His company manufactured rubber. I've interviewed him several months ago. And during those interviews, I learned that he became entangled in a price-fixing agreement with 2 of his competitors. According to federal prosecutors, that agreement amounted to unfair business practices that violated antitrust laws. Walter has since concluded his sentence. From the notes I took during the interview from memory, and from my memory, I can write a profile, one of many profiles that I'll include in this new manuscript. I aim to finish White Collar and several other manuscripts before the middle of 2011. The manuscript differs from others that I have written. Rather than writing about my experiences, I am profiling some of the fascinating men who are serving time with me. Their stories should provide teachable lessons describing how business decisions lead to government investigations. Those investigations can lead to criminal charges for white-collar crimes. Many people serving sentences for white-collar crimes do not consider themselves criminals. They speak about internal pressures that they face over one issue or another. Their professional positions gave them the capacity to commit the crime, but many don't consider the act of bribery, tax evasion, or violations of securities laws as being criminal. They rationalize their actions, thinking it a fundamental injustice to serve time in prison alongside people like me, drug offenders, or other people convicted of crimes. The manuscript I am writing, White Collar, will include between 15 and 20 separate profiles of about 2,500 words each. The internet has led to a transition in the publishing market, and I doubt whether a mainstream publisher will bring this manuscript to market. Advances in technology and on-demand printing services for digital books will open opportunities for me to convert White Collar into an income stream. While serving these final months of my sentence, I intend to create dozens of manuscripts, lessons, or case studies. I will convert the writing into an income stream when I get out. I'm sure of it. I make progress on Walter's profile, completing nearly a full page of writing before I look at my watch and see it is already 2:48. I stretch, walk to the laundry room, and transfer my clothes from the washing machine to the dryer. I didn't have much laundry because I wash my clothes every morning. It's a strategy I use to avoid crowds. After folding the clothes, I return to my cubicle, nodding at the second guard who has arrived to assist the others with the 3 a.m. census count. The guards on the shift are used to seeing me. They know I use quiet time to write. I am grateful that they don't interrupt my solitude with small talk. Prison has taught me to appreciate little things, like quiet. The longer I can avoid talking each morning, the better I feel. More than 500 men serve time in the Taft Federal Prison Camp. Almost everyone knows me. Since I serve a longer sentence than anyone else, people are curious. They frequently ask about strategies that have helped me make it through the decades. As human beings, we're resilient. When we work to make the most of every day, we build strength, restore confidence, and create meaning in the process. I am courteous to everyone, but I purposely minimize interactions with other people. Unless the conversations relate to my work, I try to stay alone. I have found comfort in solitude. My adjustment differs from those serving shorter sentences, and it differs from when I began serving my term. I was 23 when the U.S. Marshals transported me to prison to begin serving my sentence in the United States Penitentiary of Atlanta. I remember walking into those walls. In my early 20s, I was one of the youngest men in the prison. Now, as I look around, I'm the oldest. I didn't have the autonomy that I now enjoy. Despite not having a history of violence or weapons, I started in high security with old-time convicts who wore the telltale signs of long-term imprisonment. I felt vulnerable, but also determined. I made intentional decisions, engineering my adjustment to minimize my exposure to volatility through the many years I expected to serve. Although my judge sentenced me to serve 45 years, I didn't know how to process that length of time. I couldn't believe that I'd have to serve decades before I became eligible for release on parole. The length of time didn't make sense because I hadn't been alive that long. Still, I knew that I had a responsibility to prepare. If I didn't prepare for success upon release, I anticipated that I'd get out to face new challenges, such as finding a way to earn a living. In the bathroom, I rinse out my plastic coffee mug in the sink. I use the toilet again, then wash my face. It's still dark outside. I have walked this path so many times that I know it's 58 paces down the long, narrow corridor that leads to my cubicle. The last one, number 15. It's in the back of the housing unit. As I make my way, I complete the profile I've begun writing about Walter. Or rather, I contemplate that profile so that I can complete it. It's just a story about how one man who didn't consider himself a criminal pled guilty to breaking the law. I have met thousands of men who served time for white-collar crimes with similar attitudes. I anticipate that business leaders will pay me for the intellectual property I am developing. They will want to learn how business decisions can expose them to civil investigations and trouble with the criminal justice system. If I create a lesson plan to go along with the manuscript, I'll have a product to sell to human resource managers and other corporate trainers. I turn right into my cubicle and hear my roommate, David. He is breathing heavily under the covers. He is sleeping on the lower rack, generally the preferred spot in any prison setting. With my seniority, I could have asked for a lower rack. The top rack in a quiet dorm area works better for me. To avoid disturbing David or the other people sleeping, I adjust my plastic chair quietly, turning it 90 degrees away from him. The chair faces the hallway, and I sit to wait for the 2 guards to finish their census count. On the inside of my locker door, I have photographs of Carol and me together from various prison visiting rooms. Beneath one picture, I have a calendar that I drew by hand, showing all the days of 2010. I have circled the days that Carol and I have visited. This year's calendar shows fewer circles than in years past. She is studying through nursing school, limiting the number of days she can spend with me. We visit between 2 and 4 times each month between January and June. I stare at the calendar for a moment, looking forward to advancing through the last 6 months of 2010. I'll use the time to make progress on the projects I intend to complete. I anticipate many positive changes as we move through the second half of this year. The obvious plus is that I'll be closer to my release date when this year ends. But knowing good things happen between now and then bolsters my spirits. Carol is on summer break from nursing school until mid-August, which means that she will visit once every week, the maximum possible days in this prison. Time together with her highlights my life. We have sacrificed weekly visits through the first half of this year so that she could complete her final year of nursing school. In mid-August, she resumes school to finish the last semester. With the requirement of her completing prerequisites for nursing school, we have been on this path toward her nursing degree for 3 years. Although I'll have to cope with fewer visits when she returns to school, the rumor around the camp is that administrators will open access to email services. This technology will be new to me. For years, I have been reading about the internet and how it makes business move faster. I cannot wait to create new opportunities. The preparations I have made from the beginning give me confidence that I'll be able to use them to my advantage. Still, I understand that I'll have a steep learning curve. Technology, like email, will help me connect with more people and build relevance. I intend to create more robust support networks to help my transition upon release. I cannot stop thinking about all the challenges confronting me when I walk out of prison gates. I feel ready, but I am thinking of steps I can take to prepare more efficiently. I want to hit the ground running. Now, as I typically do, I'm going to ask a few questions that I hope will prompt people in jail or prison to think about their adjustment strategies. Here's 3. In what ways does the time you wake in the morning relate to your preparation for success? Answer that question. It'll give you something to think about. In what ways are you showing the people you care about that you are worthy of their support? And in what ways are you creating tools, tactics, and resources to help you transition into society successfully? So those questions, I think, would have inspired me when I was in prison to really be, I think, intentional about what I am going through. Now, if you want to write your answers to those questions, again, you can send them to Prison Professors, 32565 Golden Lantern Street, Box B-1026, Dana Point, California, 92629. We love hearing from you. And if you want us to publish your responses on a website so more people can learn about you and what you're doing, well, make sure that you try to send them to me in a digital format. You can send them to email, the following email, impact@prisonprofessors.com. Subject line, reader response. My direct email is michael@prisonprofessors.com. But I want you to know, I try to connect with millions of people in jails and prisons, and I get a lot. I try to respond to as many people as I can, but I hope that you'll be patient with me in knowing that I'm just a guy that did 26 years in prison, and I'm still striving to be the change that I want to see in the world. Now, it was the book, A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, that inspired me to write this book that I am recording on video and audio and distributing freely through YouTube or through our iTunes program or to administrators in jails and prisons. And I will continue trying to create content because I really believe that the more messages we give to people in jails and prisons, the more we can help to improve outcomes for human beings. And I'm really determined at trying to help as many people as possible emerge successfully with their dignity intact and with opportunities to prosper. I can assure you the decisions that I made while I was in prison had an influence on what I was able to build. And in this book, you could actually listen to it as I'm writing the content that has led to the various businesses that I built, the various nonprofits that I have built, the types of careers that I have developed. All of that success that I've had since I have come home has really been predicated on the decisions that I made in prison. And the big decision was to learn how to write well, to learn how to communicate well, to develop my vocabulary, to develop my critical thinking skills, and to develop an insane self-directed work ethic. I'm still getting up at early in the morning. It's 5:34 on April the 11th, 2022 as I make this video. And I will continue the course after I finish it by showing you how I take all of this digital content and convert it into not only a digital book, but also an audio book. So I'm hoping that you're learning these lessons and that you stay focused on preparing for the best possible outcome, regardless of what stage of the journey you're on. If you are a justice impacted individual, I hope that you will visit us at prisonprofessors.com to get free information on steps you can take to prepare for success. If you're watching this on YouTube or iTunes, I do hope that you will subscribe and leave a review. I produce content every day with hopes of helping as many people as possible be the change that they want to see in the world. That's what I learned from Gandhi, and it's what I'm passing along to you. My name is Michael Santos, and on behalf of our entire team at Prison Professors, I believe in you. Thanks.